Just how good is Nebraska basketball?
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and we are available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You're right in the middle of the action this season with FanDuel and place your NFL live bets all season long.
All right, welcome in. It is Thursday. I'm Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is with me. We interrupt this regularly scheduled programming on Nebraska football drama to bring you December basketball. I don't know that we've talked much about December hoops before, but it is required discussion right now. The Nebraska men are 10-0, sound the alarms after a 90-60 win against Wisconsin Wednesday night at PBA. The margin of victory, yes, was 30. As Marquise Stepp would say, largest in a conference game since Tim Miles' team in 2016 beat Rutgers by 34. Wisconsin, by the way, remains a top 40 team. I checked this morning in the Ken Pom rankings. Nebraska is up to number 26. They're 23rd in the AP poll. The only other 10-0 team out there right now is Duke. That's it. It's Duke in Nebraska.
It's just Duke in Nebraska. What a time to be alive. Awesome.
What is happening?
Well, I think, it's really funny over the last two games here where Nebraska basketball they played Wisconsin and Creighton, right? These are two teams that have either A, been a thorn in your side, or
a bit,
B, you hate because of the regionality of the entire thing.
It's a rival thing.
Or because like the way they do things, the way they go about their business, right? How they're always sort of like greater than the sum of their parts and all these things. And the great part
because they've taken the players that you want.
Yeah. There's that too. Absolutely. And I think, what has happened over these last two games is that the roles have been completely reversed. Nebraska basketball is the connected, greater than the sum of their parts, hard-nosed, blood coming out of my mouth, like high-scoring, three-point shooting son of a guns. And they look complete, whether it's 1-5 or 1-7 or 1-8, whatever it might be. And they look confident, and it's a sight to see. And they're making mincemeat of these teams that have had a thorn in their side for so many years. And they look way, way, way better than both of those teams at this moment. It's quite the release. And now they go to Illinois on Saturday this will be like one of the biggest games in college basketball this weekend, which is awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like a Kentucky Louisville game or like early season ACC showdown or something like that, but you might have Nebraska.
A big day. We have Arizona, Alabama on Saturday. Right. That's pretty big, but
Arizona's number one.
That is the number one thrill rating on KenPom right now. Kansas, NC State, Arkansas, Texas Tech, Indiana, Kentucky, SMU, LSU, Oklahoma State,
Indiana, Kentucky's got them beat for prestige. Well, a lot of matchups. Yeah. Whatever, man. Like, did you see the video of Troy Dannon in the tunnel after the game when Fred came off the court after doing his BTN hit and radio? I mean, Dannon was like a little kid on Christmas morning when they greeted each other in the walk back to the locker room. This is just wild stuff that's going on with Nebraska basketball right now to be 10-0. And I'm just going to stop with the whole, they have the longest winning streak in the country because they won that's not even funny anymore. They are 10-0 with wins against teams from the Big 10, from the Big East, from the Big 12, from the SEC. Like, it's a legit 10-0.
Oh yeah, and now it is. I mean, there's nothing you can say about it now, right? They're 1-0 in the conference. So yeah, I completely agree with you. And it's not it's not magic. It's not fairy dust. A lot of the times when Nebraska has gone on their runs over the last decade or so, because there's been plenty of them. A couple teams that have made the NCAA tournament, like it just kind of felt like there was a magic sprinkling of fairy dust, on top of it, and guys were making kind of ridiculous shots or playing above their means or whatever it might be. That is most certainly not the case here. Most certainly not the case. I think there is a clear picture of what it's going to look like when they play well. And of course, I think they have a pretty high floor. This is the highest floor Fred Hoiberg team for me. That's an opinion, by the way. I mean, it's not magic. They're just stacking years and years and years. And they have experienced players who know what they're doing, and it's awesome to watch.
The only part of it that I see like a little bit magical, where I'm concerned about the longevity of this, as I watch, I'm glad that Rienk Mast got to take some time off in the second half on Wednesday night, because there's sometimes when I watch him running and Rienk is like he's the straw that stirs the drink. Like he runs the offense. It goes through him. And that's a staple of a Fred Hoiberg system, is to run your offense through a skilled big. So they do that. And he does it better, dare I say, than some of the guys. I'm not going to go back to like George Niang at Iowa State and say he does it better than him. But like the guys that he's had, that Fred has had at Nebraska who've done this well, Rienk is another level of just basketball intelligence and the way that the ball moves around the floor. It's not just him, but he's in the middle of it. I worry a little bit about Mast because he's so old and he had the knee surgery last year. I'm talking about him like he's 60. Yeah. And I wonder, is there going to come a time in February or March where like he just disintegrates into like a pile of bones?
Wow. Unbelievable. Yeah. I can't believe you would say that. No way. No.
Does he need some load management? Like
come on. He's going to play. He's going to play, what's he playing right now? Like 30-ish minutes a game or something like that. It's not
looks like he might get just so tired.
Well, he's a naturally sweaty man. Okay.
There might be some of it.
He's very, very sweaty. And so he looks maybe disheveled at the end of games, but no, not a concern for me at all. I mean, obviously all of this is barring health, but I mean, not any one player more than any other. That's for sure.
Okay. Well, I mean, if Rienk were to just even sprain an ankle or something like that, I'm not even talking about a major catastrophe, they would be a different team without him for one game. Now they could withstand him taking the day off. Maybe he should against North Dakota coming up here, or New Hampshire Tech, whoever they've got after that. But they need him. They need him to be there in the middle of things in the Big Ten. And then the other thing I wonder, as I watch him come off the bench, like you can tell that Fred's got some luxury, because on like every other team that he's had in most of the teams in Nebraska basketball history, Braden Frager would be starting and be a featured piece. But like others bring him off the bench and he's like lighting it up from 3-point range. At what point does he remember that he's a freshman? A redshirt freshman, but a freshman nonetheless.
I think you keep him in the role he's in right now. Like it's the perfect role for a guy like that who you could put out there with parts of your second group and say, all right, give him the ball and he's a playmaker, right? He's a slasher with the basketball in his hands, and he's capable of shooting the 3 ball as well. Like, so I think that's a really good role for a guy like that to be in. I think you always want to have one of those guys on your second group. And so, and he's obviously very capable of playing with the top guys as well. And he provides something a little bit different. You look at Mast, he understands, his great player, but he understands like his role. Berke, same thing. Price, Sanford, same thing. Jamarcus Lawrence, same thing. Like Sam Hoiberg absolutely is the definition of that. And then you bring in Frager and he's like, all right, man, like, let him cook a little bit. Like, well, I don't exactly know what this is going to be, but I think that's the perfect, spot for that kind of being.
And then they got Cale Jacobson. We're like deep in real basketball talk here. Then they got Cale Jacobson, who this is a thing where if Nebraska hadn't played in that fake tournament at the end of last season and won the crown, you wouldn't know about Cale Jacobson, because there are a couple of things that happened, and I'd put Sam Hoiberg in this category too, where because they had some injuries and they had to go with a little different lineup in Vegas at the end of last season, those guys got confidence, and it's carried over into this year.
Yeah, I think they've just stacked. It's and getting Mast back is obviously fantastic, but Berke Buyuktencel looks 10 times better than he did last year in his first year in a Nebraska uniform, and Price Sanford is fit in seamlessly, and Jamarcus Lawrence returns. So it's the same thing with Mast, and then Hoiberg's been there the entire time doing the same, adding and adding and adding, and so I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think I would have predicted them to be 10-0 at this point, but they are old, experienced, and have a complete understanding of their roles. And that's what it takes, especially in the early season college basketball where there's so much variance. We'll see what happens as we continue on through the season, but there's no doubt about it. I mean, this team is capable of just about anything right now. And
despite scoring 90 points last night, and they put up some big numbers, they're winning with defense. They won last night because of the defense, because of the job. And Berke, he kind of leads the charge there. But they shut down John Blackwell, who was the reigning Big Ten Player of the Week, held him to 7 points. They are getting in passing lanes. You saw that against Creighton, doing a fantastic job. I one of the is it Seth Davis? Is he on the BTN,
yep, he was on the BTN
yep. studio crew? Said that this was Hoiberg's best defensive team as in college, like including the Iowa State days, which kind of shocked me a little bit to hear somebody of his acumen say that on national TV. But those guys in the studio were blown away by Nebraska last night. Yeah,
it's funny because they don't, you look at them and you look at their personnel and you're like, this is a really good defensive team. And no offense, I didn't think that coming into the year, but it's all effort, and that's the thing that Hoiberg has created. Fred Hoiberg has created over the last 4 seasons now. It has to start with the defensive side, and that will fuel everything we do offensively. And so if we bring that defensively every possession, we're going to be able to do whatever we want on offense because we'll have the energy to do so. And that's common basketball, right? Like, he knows as well as anybody, if they get a stop on the defensive end, they get a miss on the defensive end, and they're not pulling out of the net, they have the pieces and the tools to really go on offense with all the options that they have. So, but it starts, you're right, completely. It starts on the defensive side, and it has.
Okay. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll move to football, and we'll talk about something that happened in the Big Ten on Wednesday that was very, very, very bad. All right, but first we got a word from Aura Frames, because the holidays are here. It means gift hunting season is on, and if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get the right reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories. Aura is not your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when your friends or family plug it in, the memories are already there. There are no apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. You want to give it to grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos. Add a personalized message right inside the frame so the gift feels thoughtful the moment it's open. The packaging comes gift ready, no price tag, no wrapping needed. It's a huge win, a holiday gift that actually gets used, not forgotten in a drawer. And for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting Aura Frames, AURA frames.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frame named #1 by Wirecutter. Use the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's Aura, AURA frames.com, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So order yours now. Get in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout.
Welcome back. Appreciate you making this podcast very listen to. We appreciate that. And also the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. Okay, yesterday, wild day in Ann Arbor. Started for Sherrone Moore in, I'm sure, as any normal day in December. Doing prep for the bowl game, or trying to tamper with players out of the transfer portal or something like that. And then he learned he was being fired for cause, because of a inappropriate relationship with a staffer. And then it ended in some sort of a holding cell overnight. And so we'll try and get to the details in between. But Michigan is without a coach. Well, I guess they have interim coach Biff Poggi for the moment, but they will hold a national search, and that could disrupt things yet again in college football.
Biff is back.
He
led the Wolverines to Lincoln this year and directed them to a win in one of Michigan's most dominant performances of the season. So, okay, Sherrone Moore is fired for cause. This story is like, it's been a crazy, wild season in college football, and this takes the cake. So just in the coaching carousel alone, you've had James Franklin fired after 6 games at Penn State. You got the governor involved in firing Brian Kelly on an emotional decision at LSU. Then you had Franklin poaching the Nittany Lions while Penn State floundered to find a coach. Kiffin and his theatrics at Ole Miss, ultimately deciding to leave and crying on the way out the door about how he wanted to coach them in the bowl game, and then lending his assistance at LSU back to the Rebels. Like, none of that even holds a candle to what happened Wednesday at Michigan. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you would have told me the Lane Kiffin story saga was the craziest story of the college football season, I would have said, yeah, that makes sense. I think we're probably pretty much done about now. And then this one pops up, and the thing, I guess, one of the things to watch, I suppose, going forward is there were some rumors about this for several days and weeks. Yeah. But you don't know with that. Like, there's always there's troll accounts out there, and you just don't know. Yeah. No, you don't. But it was relatively widespread. And then, they find the credible information that they need to fire him on, it's notably after signing day. I will say that. Yes. Their signees can go wherever they want. Yeah. So you fire the head coach, and every one of their signatures is now means nothing. So if they want to go play for the next coach, Michigan needs a coach is what they need, because the portal's going to open in a couple weeks. And I mean, like, I don't want to just jump right into this and say it's all about football, because, like, there's people's lives who are blown up by what happened in Ann Arbor yesterday, and that's awful and terrible. Like, Sherrone Moore has 3 little kids, and their dad, those girls' dad, is in jail this morning because something happened when he got fired and he left the office, and he had an incident and got detained by the police, which took the level of insanity of this story up about 16 notches on Wednesday night. So, like, let's keep that in mind. But in the football sense of it, they're going to get a good coach, but they need to get that person in fairly quick, because, like, Biff Poggi can hold it down and, like, chew on a cigar and coach at the same time. But, like, that's not going to get players out of the portal in January. And a lot of these recruits, or some of these recruits, are going to be thinking about things. Nebraska was the beneficiary on Wednesday night, potentially, of this situation, because there's a defensive lineman from Baltimore, Jaden Travers, a 3-star in the 2027 class, who had Michigan, Miami, and Nebraska as his finalists, and he committed to Nebraska. I wonder why he didn't go to Michigan. He committed in a fun way too. He was like weird. Playing in an all-star game. He took a flag out of the tunnel. That was cool. But yeah, did Did you see there were like Nebraska banners on the sideline behind the bench? I was wondering if that was like AI or if those were actually there.
I didn't see that. What all-star game was that? Was that like a
no idea
all-star game? Okay.
Anyway. I have no idea. I thought the whole video might have been just fabricated digitally.
You never know. I mean, but yeah, like you said, Mitch, not to jump over the dramatic details of this too much, but the football stuff is really intriguing. I mean, where does Michigan go? What can they do right now at this stage in the game to hire a coach? How good of a job is it? Considering all the turmoil that program has gone through over the last several years. It's a good job. It's obviously capable of very, very good things. But is there a sitting, high level Power 5 coach right now that's gonna ditch their current high level Power 5 job to go to Michigan? Probably not.
Like Kalen DeBoer is not taking this job. I think he even said that, posted it in the aftermath of this Michigan thing because his name was flying around out there. This is not the time for Kalen DeBoer to jump to the Big Ten. That may happen someday, but this is not the moment for that. And the question here is who's going to make the hire, because Ward Manuel has presided over about the most messy, scandal-filled run of years at a big school, short of, well, this puts what SMU did in the 80s to shame, but we don't give programs the death penalty anymore. Otherwise, Michigan would probably be there for its moral and whatever actual football related crimes. So Ward Manuel is going to need to survive this week himself before he can then go and hire the next Michigan football coach. And I'm not confident that will happen for
when you look at like the tail of the tape, I guess. And it's like, well, over the last, 3 or 4 years, a dozen staffers have been fired. You've had multiple head coaches. A head coach has now been fired for cause. And there's like 3 different, things going on. There's not only the sign stealing thing, but now there's this. And then they were already under investigation / being penalized for another, minor or mid-level NCAA violation as well. So, yeah, really, really messy in the aftermath of, or even during, obviously, Michigan's run in the national championship a couple of years ago.
Okay. All right. Let's get back to Nebraska football. And it's related to this conversation about the craziness of December and what Matt Rhule had to say about all of that after this break.
But first, a word from FanDuel, where NFL Sundays are moving fast. In fact, there's only a few of them left. One big play, suddenly everything feels a little bit different. And that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you are reacting to it in real time. You are personally invested in the game as it goes. Live betting, awesome to take a part in when the game shifts or when you can predict when the game is going to shift. So that's up to you on FanDuel. Live spreads, money lines, they adjust instantly. Player props, they update as guys heat up. And of course, you could bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So we need you right in the middle of the action this season. Head to FanDuel.com and place those live NFL bets all season long. With FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
All right, back with you on this Thursday episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. We will have a mailbag. So lots of questions, I'm sure, out there related to what's going on in Nebraska football or Nebraska basketball, if you want to go there. By the way, I see the Huskers in basketball just came across my X timeline are 14th right now in the NET rankings, which is like, it's a power ranking thing that's different.
It's a resume based, type of thing. And so, when Nebraska goes to Illinois on Saturday, it's worth more to have a win on the road against a quality team. But
Illinois 12 in the NET.
Illinois will have a chance for a quad 1 win at home against Nebraska on Saturday. Top 25. I mean, so it's a quad 1 opportunity for both teams, which is really amazing to think about. Still early, these things kind of sort themselves out, but Nebraska's going to be up there all year long, it looks like.
So if you have questions about that, Nebraska hoops, Nebraska football, all the stuff that's gone on in Lincoln this week, get those into us, lockedonneb@gmail.com. Keep the questions, we're going to have a lot of questions. So keep your questions like to like a minimum with the question, like get to the question and then we'll be, and then tighten it up. And then we'll be able to get more questions asked on the show, or I might have to resort to editing you. All right. If you missed our Wednesday episode, we went over everything that Matt Rhule had to say earlier this week about new defensive coordinator Rob Orich, about the firing of O-line coach Donovan Raiola and D-line coach Terry Braden, about adding Jeep Wade, about what the Huskers are looking for in Orich and how that hiring process went. So even without the things that we saw Wednesday happening in college football, December has lost its mind in this sport. You've got players announcing their intentions to go into the transfer portal, and then when that door swings open on January 2nd, there will be hundreds who are very quickly looking to find a home. Many of them you'll see will just commit almost immediately. Some might commit before January 2nd even gets here, because the work that's going on behind the scenes is frantic this month. So the leaders in college football, in their infinite wisdom this offseason, moved to the portal period out of December in an attempt to quiet things down a bit because there's too much going on with the postseason, with the signing period, with coaches on the move. But that did not work. It's still wild. And so I asked Matt Rhule. You have a thought there?
Yeah, well, I thought it was funny at the time when everyone was like, "Oh, this is a great decision by the NCAA." I mean, you could you really, the portal only opens after January. That way, you don't have to think about this stuff. No, it's
short-sighted.
This is basically the legal tampering period. They have that in the NBA. It's still illegal, but it's the tampering period.
Right. It didn't change anything. It just made it like more difficult to get all the information. So. Matt Rhule, I asked him this week about what's going on in the Nebraska personnel department as they get ready for the flood of transactions to occur next month. And here's his answer.
Coach Saban said it, and that's why like a bunch of us in the Big Ten meetings voted to have a May portal, right? Because it's still the chaos of this, right? Like kids should go to school for a year. They should go to college and be there for the fall and then the spring and so that's why Coach Saban said it so well in College Game Day. You got coaches opting out because they have to go get their roster built for their next team, and it's just it could have been done differently, but it is what it is. So I mean, our guys are working overtime. I mean, we have, I mean, it's just amazing from where we started, like with one or two recruiting guys to now, like we have AI programs and we have the telemetry programs and we have computer vision to track speeds on guys. And it's just, you're recruiting the 27 class, you're recruiting the 28 class. You're still talking to some 26 kids that haven't signed yet. You're looking at who's going to be in the portal. You're hearing announcements from people. I mean, it's around the clock, and you're also working on your own team, trying to get the guys here to stay here and not, that you feel like you need to have here. So, this is their training camp. Like, this is their busy season, and it's so amplified from where it was. Every year we've taken a step personnel wise.
Okay, so the teams that, and I don't know if everybody's quite up to date on this, but the teams that have declined bowl invitations this month, about Notre Dame, because Notre Dame was left out of the college football playoff and very, very much in crying fashion said, we're not going to any bowl game. But the others that have opted out, some of these are 5 and 7 teams that had opportunities. Not Iowa State, Kansas State, they've opted out. Baylor, Rutgers, Florida State, Auburn, Temple, UCF, Kansas. What? Like, these teams are opting out of bowl games because they need to they had a coaching change and there's not the organization and structure there to get it done, which hasn't been an impediment in the past. You just go with the interim staff. We've seen it at Nebraska, or they're just done. Like, they have so much to do right now this month that they're on to 2026. And
I think it's more that, I that's the way it feels to me. That's why I appreciate the idea of like the portal's only open after the school year ends and they could stay at school. Like, there's just no way you could do it. We have immediate transfer eligibility for everybody. And I know we like to think of this like utopian, this universe that we formerly knew it as in college football, but it doesn't. School doesn't matter anymore. The school calendar doesn't have any impact on what football does. So when the football season ends, there's going to be a natural, if players have the ability to transfer and be eligible at their next school right away, there's going to be this very, very natural, like, where am I going to play next year? And what is my positioning at the school that I'm currently at? And you can't stop that. I mean, the tampering part will always be there.
Do you agree with Rhule, who is on the Nick Saban bandwagon, that the portal should just be in May? I mean, you say school doesn't matter, and part of his explanation for this is, well, they should be in school for a full academic year.
That's what I'm saying. Like, in theory, sure, like if it works out that way. But Mitch, it's the same thing. They changed the portal from January to December this time, or from December to January this time. And what happened? Nothing. I mean, it's going to be, it would be the same thing if the portal was in May.
Well, but it would be 5 or 6 months off at this point when they could. I think part of the reason you see so much of this being at the forefront of conversation is because, they moved it out of December, but January 2nd is not really all that far removed from December. If it was May, like let's say the portal opened on May 15th, which is around the time that you have final exams, whatever. Like, let's take the academics. I agree with you. Take the academic situation completely out of it. Just, it's May. It's like, that's when the clock turns. I do think, yes, you would still have decisions being made right now with players saying, I intend to go in the portal in 6 months, but it wouldn't be the same kind of urgency. You wouldn't see some of the stuff happening where you wouldn't see LSU necessarily in such an urgent situation to hire away its new coach from a college football playoff contender, because that new coach, Lane Kiffin, was only going to have a few days to get ready for the portal to open. If the portal didn't open until May, he could catch up. He could, like, Ole Miss is probably going to lose in the first or second round of the playoff.
But that's crazy, be too late. Like, you got to know what your roster is going to look like before May.
Well, you can start to get things in order in the spring. I say I'm fully on board with the May portal at this point. Watching, it's collateral damage. It's not just that the portal is pushed back and you got kids saying they're going in, their agents out there leaking it to report. It's not just that. It's how messed up the coaching change season was this year. And why did Penn State feel the need to fire James Franklin in early October? Because the offseason is so accelerated, and you have signing day in December, which totally backfired on Penn State. Didn't sign anyone of note. And then the portal opens on January 2nd. So you're in this massive rush to get it all done. I say blow the whole thing up. We've talked about this before, but I think it's worth repeating. Blow it up. And forget about spring football being an important thing on the offseason calendar in the month of March. So move the signing day out of December. December is for whatever coach movement there is, and the college football postseason, the CFP. Like, it generates huge money for the sport and interest. Let the CFP be on stage in December and into January. Have a signing period in August. Have a signing period in February, a late signing period. Do some OTAs, whatever you might want to do. Spring football, if you want to call it that, with your shell of a roster in March. And then portal opens in May for a couple of weeks. And then in June, you have the majority of your off-season training, which already is beginning to exist. Nebraska had like 15 days of OTAs, practices, whatever, in uniform in the month of June. That's when you get your team together for what we look at now as spring football. And then that rolls into training camp a month later.
I agree with the sentiment. Like, it puts more emphasis on the playoff. It doesn't hurt teams who are participating in the playoffs, so where they can't focus their full attention on the portal and all that stuff. Like, I really do. I get it. I understand it. But I just don't think you cannot know what your roster looks like until May. And you would hear all these coaches. I mean, the reason that we talk about any of these things is because coaches complain about it and ADs complain about it. The coaches would lose their mind. They would be like, I don't know what you want to know why we're not good in August? You want to know why we're not good in September? You want to know why we're not good until late October? Because I don't know what my roster looks like until the end of May. I don't know what my roster looks like until the 4th of July. That's what they would be saying. And it would create a wide variance, like this huge variance in college football, especially early season college football. I don't know. Like, I don't think there is I'm not specifically railing against this idea. I just don't think there is a right answer. Like there
would still be problems. There would still be problems. You'd have players
dealt a bad hand, as far as this is concerned, a long time ago with the immediate eligibility in the portal.
You'd still have players who left their schools after the season. You'd have players who just dropped out of school right now after the season ended in November or December. And then there's nothing that stops them from like re-enrolling at another school. Let's say Nebraska wanted to get a linebacker from Kansas State. I mean, that linebacker could quit school at K-State on his own and then sign up and go to school at Nebraska in January. But you wouldn't be using the portal. And if the NCAA and the rule makers had a backbone, they could create a rule that said if you don't transfer via the portal, then you have to sit out a year like it used to be. But if you go through the normal process in the portal and do it in May, then you're immediately eligible. And that would get challenged in court. And the court would probably side with the player in that situation, but deal with that as it comes. It's better than what we're going through right now. I think that rosters would be okay because everybody would be on the same page. The summer's the month of June is now going to be insanity, but at least it's not insanity with the portal and the playoff and signing day and the coaching carousel. Like, you could just have May and June be about getting your roster together and then getting out on the field right away, like a mini camp after the NFL draft. I realize it's just with rookies who are trying to get ready, and the portal is a much bigger addition to your roster. But I wish somebody would step up. Maybe it's Saban, who has teeth in this sport, and find a way to make that happen and just get us out of this portal madness in the winter and put it in May.
More conversations like this over the next couple of weeks as we continue to drudge through this quote unquote tampering period. That will do it for us today. Appreciate you listening to Locked On Nebraska. You can find us, of course, on social media at LO Nebraska. And by the way, if we make your Spotify wrap this year, check us out and send that our way. We'll drop you a code. And for those of you on video on YouTube, we're going to send you over to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make your second listen Locked On College Football. We'll talk to you tomorrow.